Hey guys, what's going on? Druzy here, back again with another South Park Phone Destroyer video, and the final video of this little 4-part mini-series that I've done with all the rarities in the current game and where I think they lie within the current meta. Now, a lot of you put a lot of comments and a lot of different opinions on the epic cards. Now, there are a ton of epic cards within the game, and a lot of them are extremely good. There are a few that maybe are a little underpowered, and maybe I'll do a video on that. But if there are any other videos like this kind of stuff that involves the meta, involves something that could be a little mini-series, let me know down below if you guys are interested in any specific video like that in that genre, and I will look at it, your ideas, and then let you know what I think. So this video, of course, will be focusing on my opinion on the top 10 legendary cards currently within the game. There are 12 legendaries as I'm recording this video currently within the game. So there are only two legendaries that didn't make the cut, and both of them are fairly easy, I think, as far as where people will put and where people will rank these legendary cards. That the two that I think that don't even make the list are for obvious reasons. So the number one card that is definitely not in the top 10 is Mr. Hanky, and the main reason is because he's basically a spell card. So his war cry doubles the charge rate of all allies for 20 seconds. Now here's the thing that somebody mentioned in my rare video that it was a very good point. So Mr. Hanky's war cry lasts for 20 seconds, where Youth Pastor Craig, who is a rare card, lasts for 30 seconds. It definitely seems like something that needs to probably be addressed by Red Links in the future. Maybe buff Mr. Hanky, give him a 30-second buff, and then maybe he'll be more usable, because his ability, his damage and his health are just basically irrelevant. Just ignore that completely. But Mr. Hanky does not make the list. He is not strong enough right now within the game, in my opinion. And the other one that would not make the top 10 is Ink and Craig, and primarily because Ink and Craig still isn't that great. He needs either an increase to range, he needs an increase to his overall damage. His attack is terrible, his health is not that great, his war cry, although it sounds really cool, in reality isn't good enough. It needs to either have a larger aura on screen to where it does more damage with the enemy with the laser beam, not necessarily maybe a buff to leader damage or damage overall, but just make it bigger so it hits more units so it's actually somewhat useful, or lower his energy cost from 5 to 4 energy. Any of those things would make him better and make him possibly a top 10 legendary card, and I would love to use Ink and Craig. I would love Ink and Craig to be worth it. But he's not yet, and it stinks, and so he's definitely not in the top 10. So now we're actually going to start the top 10 as far as, what cards I feel are currently a top 10 legendary card within the game. And number 10 is Inuit Kenny. Now, Inuit Kenny got a huge buff to attack and health with this legendary buff, and I haven't really touched Inuit Kenny very much. As you see, I'd only have him to max level 1 anyways, even if I did upgrade him. And he has insane damage potential at a high legendary level. But primarily, most people utilized him in the past for his Death Wish, which kills an enemy that killed him, and many would use it to cancel out someone like Man Bear Pig, someone that was a really annoying tank card, or something that was a really annoying card to deal with, maybe a Bar Brady, maybe a Cartman, one of those, something like that. And in reality, Inuit Kenny's still only purpose is really that Death Wish. I don't see his damage and his health being worth it on top of just the Death Wish itself. He has a 4 energy cost, which is a little high for most assassins. I feel like if he got a lower to energy, maybe you'd see him more in the meta. But until that point, I think Inuit Kenny is going to remain as one of the bottom feeders of legendary cards. Now, there are some people that like Inuit Kenny, but I don't, and I think that he's just not as valuable as some of the other cards within the game. But, if he was max level 7, his damage potential is insane. And even at like level 4, level 5 legendary, his damage is insane. But still, that's not enough. I think you need all of the pieces to be put together to make him an effective card. I just don't feel he's quite there yet. Really, his Death Wish is all he's really worth for you as far as his usefulness right now within the game. Coming at number 9 is Man Bear Pig. Now, Man Bear Pig is better. He is better. He's not good enough yet. He has really good health scaling now. He's got better damage scaling now at his increased amount. But then he's one of the rarer cards to get within the game. I believe that his RNG is one of the highest in the game as far as difficulty to unlock him or get him as a card. Now, I could be wrong in that regard, but I'm pretty sure Manbear Pig is one of the 3 or 4 cards that is the hardest to get within the game. Obviously, number 1 is Visitors. Visitors is the most difficult card to obtain within the game right now, but Manbear Pig is up there. He's pretty high. I think Grand Wizard Cartman is very high as well, and I honestly don't remember what the other one is. But Manbear Pig is difficult to get. There are some people that have him at level 3, level 2, or maybe even level 4. And I've seen even a level 5 with someone like Papa Roscoe, who has a lot of level 5 legendary cards. So I'm not saying he's not available for you and he's impossible to get. He's just maybe a little bit more difficult to get. He's a high energy cost at 7 cost. And the fact that even though Common Assassins were nerfed in the last update, a couple updates ago, it makes him a little bit better, because that was the biggest bane of him, is that you just swarm him with rats or pigeons and then a couple of, common level assassin cards, and the Manbear Pig just went down in 2 seconds. Or you were hoping somebody didn't have Unholy Combustion or Transmogrify or something that would just instant cancel him out. But now that the instant cancels are more meta within the game, Manbear Pig loses value, even though he's better and stronger, and Pope Timmy is better, who can revive him in that Manbear Pig Pope Timmy combo that was so rampant in the early parts of the game, is now back with a vengeance to some degree. At least Pope Timmy's play is, to where Manbear Pig could be playable now because you could just revive him back with Pope Timmy. But I still think that he could be a little bit better, could be tweaked a little bit more. I've constantly stated that I think that his attack should be an AoE attack. Maybe that would be too overpowered. A lot of people have stated that when I've said that in videos, and that's probably true, but at least then buff his damage overall. Make him, base level at 70 or something, and then as he levels up, make it stronger, because if he's not doing enough damage, and even though he has really good health scaling, he's just not going to be able to be really viable for a lot of people within the current meta. And if you want the meta to be, which seems to have focused to more legendary and epics played than commons and rares, then you're going to need to make this legendary card a little bit better if you're going to want to see him more wide scale within the current meta. Coming in at number 8 is Shieldmaiden Wendy. Now, Shieldmaiden Wendy has gotten a couple upgrades to her. She's had increased health scaling, and then she defaultly got more increased health scaling when the legendary upgrades came in. Now, she's still not probably to the level that I think it should be. I think Shieldmaiden Wendy should get a little bit more health scaling than what she currently has. But now at least she's somewhat viable. You're seeing people playing level 3 or level 2 Shieldmaiden Wendy's. I don't really play her because I've never been a huge fan of her. I just don't feel like her invincibility, even though it's good and can be useful at times, isn't really overwhelming. And I don't think it necessarily should be, but I think that sometimes, like the first time you use it is nice, and then basically she's just going to die probably most likely after that. So you'll never see her charged invincibility be used more than once, most likely. And even though she's a low energy cost, which is very nice and helps her with the lack that her stats could probably be a little bit better, her damage potential is good, her attack speed is pretty decent, but then it's her health. She needs to be more of a tank than she's a fighter card, I get that, but she needs to have more tank-like qualities, because her charge ability seems to be more focused on her being kind of a tank, more so than being a fighter card. But I know that Witch Doctor Token and some other fighter cards at the legendary level get more health scaling than Shieldmaiden Wendy, and that just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. If the way the card's built, it just seems like she should have a little bit more defense overall, in my opinion. Now, this is something that a lot of people say, oh, well, her health scaling is fine, everything else about her is fine, she's actually now playable. I think she's definitely now playable. That's why she's a little bit higher up on this list than what she probably would have been just even a couple months ago. But I definitely think there needs to be a little bit more tweaking done to Shieldmaiden Wendy to make her a little bit more viable and see more riddle play, because I'm not really going to play her right now until her health scaling is a little bit better, in my opinion. Coming in at number 7 is Grand Wizard Cartman. Grand Wizard Cartman needs to get better, guys. And the big thing that is the huge downfall of Grand Wizard Cartman, even though his health scaling is vastly improved, his damage is a little bit better, even though it's not stellar, and that's not really what he's supposed to do. He's a tank, I get that. So, the damage, overall damage isn't necessarily supposed to be a strength for him. His charge, his blast, it takes 20 years to cast the dang thing, and then doesn't do any damage. So, yes, it has a knockback, which is nice and helpful to some degree, but it needs to be much stronger. I think, and people are going to call me crazy, but I've said this multiple times, I think Grand Wizard Cartman's charge damage needs to be to the same level or the same buff that was given to Standing Many Moons. Everybody's going to tell me, Drew, that's insane, that's crazy, please don't do that, Red Links. They won't do that, okay? So I'm saying it because I think it would be helpful to make the card more viable and more useful. People are using him now more than ever, so I will say that. He's definitely seen more use within the current meta structure. At 2 and 3, he is usable. He's a very solid tank, and he's going to be really nice for you, and then you can get something like Chicken Coop back behind him, or maybe Blood Elf Bebe, or somebody that's at range or that can swarm up, and then Grand Wizard Cartman can be even more devastating. But I just don't think he's great as far as the damage potential that he's going to do with his charge ability. If you're going to make the animation take 4 years, make the damage worth the charge animation, or make the animation shorter. One of those two things needs to happen, I think, to make Grand Wizard Cartman much more viable, much better of a card overall. Until that point comes, he's going to be kind of stuck where he's at. I still like Grand Wizard Cartman. I've played him a little bit more than I have in the past. I would like to get more of him because I would actually like to try to incorporate a deck with him. I'm really liking Awesemo a little bit more now since the meta has shifted. But Grand Wizard Cartman is still viable, at least definitely more viable now than he was before, with the increase to his health and damage. Mostly his health, but I think his charge ability for sure needs a little bit of love. Maybe not a full extent love like Standing Many Moons got, even though that would be cool in my opinion, but definitely a love to some degree. Make it 100 instead of 200 at base level 1. Do something like that, and then I think you'll see him more. Coming in at number 6 is Medusa Bebe. Now, the event that's currently going on this weekend as I'm recording this video is centered around Medusa Bebe. Apparently there's going to be more chances to get her, things like that. I really love Medusa Bebe at the beginning of the game. She was one of the first legendary cards, or she was the first legendary card added to the game when this game launched. And in fact was in the first overall event, I believe, that South Park did, Phone Destroyer did, for this game when it launched back in November. So Medusa Bebe has been around quite a while, and she was really, really, really strong at first, and she was probably the meta shifted around Medusa Bebe. If you had Medusa Bebe level 1, level 2 at a low level, you decimated everybody. Her snakes were so strong, her health was insane, which it still is, and then her damage potential was really good and at that time. Medusa Bebe has fallen from grace significantly with some of the buffs that were given to other cards, and then she kind of rescended back into a norm kind of within the game by getting the legendary buffs that she received. She still has really good health scaling, the best health out of any range card you're going to see in the game. Decent damage, not the greatest attack speed, but her snakes are still really nice. They do good damage. They poison for you, which is really good. And she's kind of back into the meta right now with the way that it is. There are a decent amount of people that have her at level 3 and level 4. I, unfortunately, only have her at level 2. But I always loved Medusa Bebe. For the longest time, she was probably the strongest legendary card, in my opinion, in the game, even more so than Mecha Timmy at one point. But then she fell down significantly, again, like I said earlier, and then now she's kind of come back up. So I definitely like her now. I think she's much more usable than she was just a few months ago. But I still think she could be a little bit better. I don't really know how to do that. I guess make her snakes a little bit stronger or something like that. But Medusa Bebe's in a much better spot and much more viable now. And I'm really excited about that because I always enjoyed the card, even when she came out in the beginning. Coming in at number 5 is 6th Element Randy. And 6th Element Randy is much, much better now. His vacuums, or the robot vacuums that he pukes out for his charge ability, are much better. They got a decent buff. His health is a lot better now, and his damage is scaled much better now. So I have seen people using a level 3 6th Element Randy and not even having a tank in their deck, because 6th Element Randy has insane health with the scaling that he gets, to where he's basically a tank card that spawns tank vacuum units to where it's insanely difficult to deal with him. He's almost a card where if you fight someone that has a level 3 or level 4 6th Element Randy, you may have to cancel him out completely, use a cancel spell, or else you're going to be in a world of hurt, because that's just how dangerous he is now. I think he was the first legendary card I got within this game months and months and months ago, and I've never been able to get another version of him since I got that one to unlock 6th Element Randy. And when I first got him, he was not that great. I mean, he was okay, and then so many cards were buffed to where he was completely obsolete. But then now, since the legendary reset, or not reset, but buffs that were given to all these legendary cards, 6th Element Randy is now a viable card again, and it's really cool to see, and it's really fun to see, and I like the Randy Swarm spawn units. The only one I don't play very much is Sexy Nun Randy, even though he's probably the strongest right now. But 6th Element Randy is definitely a meta-style card now. You can use them for sci-fi players. Sci-fi is my favorite theme. I'm excited and hopeful that someday I'll have 6th Element Randy to a higher level so I can use him more readily, because I really do enjoy the card. But right now I don't, so it kind of stinks. But overall, his card is much improved, very good now, and he's fun to play. Coming in at number 4 is Witch Doctor Token, aka Witch Doctor Broken. Witch Doctor Token is a very useful card now. He got multiple buffs. He got at least one buff right before the legendary buffs took place, where his steel HP amount was increased, I think about 30 or 40%. It was increased relatively significantly to where he was viable then. He even got better, though, when he got the buffs to the legendary cards. His health scaling was increased really well. His damage was increased very well. And then his steel HP amount was increased a little bit more on top of that, to where it's even better now. He will hopefully be the first legendary card to get to level 3, as he is the closest I have in a tie with Stand of Many Moons at 3 of 4. I'm hoping to get him to level 3. If I do, I will use him more readily. You've seen a lot more Witch Doctor Token being played right now within the current game. He's kind of fallen a little bit from as far as the play since the legendary buffs came out. As I think with some of the recent weekend events, he's not been as viable for a lot of people, especially with Chicken Coop coming back and being more of a mainstream use. Witch Doctor Token, if you can get him in the back line and kind of get him around a couple of Chicken Coops, he can be great at wiping out a swarm of cocks or some other swarm or any other units that's dealing with you. The other big key about his charge ability that makes it so good is it will also attack air units as well as ground units. So it'll take out pigeons. It'll help you take out Bounty Hunter Kyle. Maybe not kill, all those units. Definitely pigeons, though. But, I mean, having a Witch Doctor Token at a 2 or a 3 can be devastating and can really be good for you, especially if you pair it with someone like Robin Tweak, give him that health increase to where he can just be even more devastating, because he's a really strong card right now. But if paired correctly and you synergize around him, he can be devastating and a game-changing card within the legendary landscape of this game. Coming in at number 3, the Master Ninju. Now, the Master Ninju is way better now. Kyle got some nice love with the health buff that he got a couple updates ago, and then of course the legendary buffs on top of that. His damage was never really that great, and it's been scaled better, so it's now more useful. But his health, the how long he can survive, is not quite to the level of Medusa Bebe, but close enough. Plus, he gives a solid attack boost, which his Warcry has been buffed as well, so that just gets better and better. So all the units on the field for the allies are going to get that nice attack boost buff until they all die, and then he's just going to be able to stay alive for a pretty ridiculous period of time unless you pick on him or deal with him, because his health scaling has been so well. I just think Master Ninju is running much more rampant within the current meta structure, within the current system of the game, because of primarily the fact that his health is increased. I don't think if they'd given him that health increased, he would not be this high on the list. I think that's one of the main reasons why I put him so high, is because his Warcry is better and his health is better. Those two things make him much more viable, much more usable. His 4 energy cost is okay. I'm not saying that needs to be tweaked or anything, but some people might argue that. But definitely, he's a much more viable card. He's a much stronger card, and which is cool because a lot of people had him to a higher level, to a 2 or a 3. He was a lot of people's legendaries that they were able to get ranked up, but then he just wasn't really totally viable yet. But now he definitely is, which is kind of scary for the current landscape, and Mystical is loving it and raping it in, and that's why Mystical is the strongest theme now, is because a lot of these Mystical legendary cards are just so much better than they were before, and Master Ninja is a prime example of that. Coming in at number 2 is Mecha Timmy. Long argued to be the best legendary card for a long time, and he definitely is still very, very strong. He has a super annoying charge ability that takes control of the nearest enemy for a few seconds. His damage is one of the strongest of any range unit in the game. His health scaling is okay, but it is improved and is a lot better. I finally got him to level 2. I've been having him at level 1 for the longest time, so you might see more Mecha Timmy play on my end, as I'm hopefully going to be able to level him up, things like that. Now that Bounty Hunter Kyle, for myself, is level 4, and for a lot of people, is getting to a 3 or a 4 or a legitimate level, and how good Bounty Hunter Kyle is, you're seeing a lot of Mecha Timmy play. He was the ultimate, you need to cancel this card out immediately. He was the Lightning Bolt, I was going to pick on you with Lightning Bolt as much as possible card before Lightning Bolt got mildly nerfed by the health increase to a lot of these legendary cards. But Mecha Timmy is super strong now. Has always been a strong legendary card, and he's just gotten a little bit better with the buffs that he was given. So he's definitely not going to fall far from grace with how strong he already was, and now he's just, again, better. So, you can't really make it much worse. Not much more to really say about Mecha Timmy. He's definitely a top 5 legendary on anybody's list. Maybe number 1 for a lot of people, but for me, he's number 2. And the number 1 is for obvious reasons, which I will discuss here in a second. So the best card in the game now, guys, in my opinion, is Stand of Many Moons. Standing Many Moons, for a while, was the worst legendary card and maybe the worst card in the game for the early parts of the game, until his buff that he received to his charge ability, which came, I think, 5 or 6 updates ago, balance changes ago, maybe more, which people really at first were like, oh my god, Standing Many Moons is now overpowered, he's going to get 200 base damage, it's going to be insane. That was a crazy drastic change by the development team, but it turned out being okay, even though you saw a lot more use of Standing Many Moons. But now he's even better. He's just insane now. His health scaling and his damage scaling, on top of the fact that his charge ability got even more of a buff. I mean, a level 3 Standing Many Moons is no joke, guys. He will devastate almost your entire push, unless you got a bunch of beefy tanks or a bunch of beefy fighter units. Standing Many Moons, you need to deal with. You need to cancel him out. You need to power bind him. Whatever you need to do, you need to stop him from destroying your entire team. He is a spell card on top of a pretty darn good fighter card on top of that. His 4 energy cost for a long time was too high for the value that he provides. Now, it's almost too low for the value he provides. I mean, I said this when the legendary buffs came out, that Standing Many Moons would be the best card in the game. He is the best card in the game. He's played any and everyone that plays Adventure that has him uses him. Even if he's level 1, they still use him because he's still viable in the legendary arenas. At a 2 or a 3 level, at a 4 or 5, he's insanity, and he's going to be insanely hard to deal with. He's going to be extremely frustrating for you. Anytime you see a Standing Many Moons get put on the battlefield, he needs to be your top priority, the top thing that you deal with. If you don't, you're in big trouble. Standing Many Moons and Mecha Timmy. I've seen a lot of people rolling Standing Many Moons and Mecha Timmy together again. And that's a devastating combo because you don't know who the heck to pick on. Unless you got something like Cock Magic that can wipe both of them out, hopefully. There's a lot of you to strategize around. Figure out your strategy and whatnot. He is someone you need to be prepared for. Adventure has always been a strong theme. It's taken a step back, in my opinion, to Mystical. But Standing Many Moons is the forefront reason why Adventure is still extremely strong, because he's so freaking good. Now, again, this is going to be a hot button topic, guys. You guys always debate me on these breakdown videos, and that's fine. I really do appreciate the feedback and comments that I've received on these videos. That's why I waited to do this legendary one. I did the first 3 back to back to back to back. I did them, like, I literally sat down and did all 3 of them in a row. But I wanted to wait to do the legendary one to read some of the comments, read some of the feedback you guys gave me. And the Epics one was the biggest debated one, which was probably, I figured that would happen. And in this one, I feel will be also fairly heavily debated. Maybe not the top 2 or 3 maybe that I picked, but definitely somewhere in the middle. Some of you might debate me and say, hey, Drew, I didn't think you put these in the right spot. Please let me know in the comment section your feeling, your top 10, what you guys think. And also, if you guys want to see more like this kind of meta setting type, mini-series or any kind of mini-series, or you want me to reinstall some series, let me know down below. I do plan on doing some videos with your decks that you guys are doing, the deck suggestions. If you want to leave some deck suggestions for me, leave them down in the comments down below of this video or in a couple future videos. I won't re-engage that series until probably next week, but I do plan on next week doing a video where I re-engage with your deck suggestions again. So please do that. I will be streaming at least once, maybe hopefully twice this weekend. So check that out. All those videos, if you miss a live stream, will be posted as videos on the channel here at a later date or at a later time in that day. Thank you guys so much for the continued support. I have had a huge influx and increased subscribers to the channel, and that has been awesome. You guys are amazing. Thank you guys so much for supporting me and supporting this game that we all enjoy, hopefully, and all play. My name is Druzy, and until next time, guys,